All right, y'all. Welcome to the Trailblazer extravaganza. Jared's our head distiller. He's the honcho, the creative director of everything. I'm the stillhouse manager, so I supervise our distillers and I coordinate some of our blending and I play with numbers. Johnson's going to be helping us out. He's on our blending team as one of our distillers, and he's going to be helping us out up there. So without further ado, let's go. Follow me.
So what we're going to do is kind of reverse engineer how we go through putting a malt blend together. So we're going to break up in 4 groups, and everybody's going to have a different component. So there's going to be a first fill American oak component, first fill European, first fill French, and then refill like ex-bourbon. Blending is weird. It is not linear. Everyone has this experience. You take 2 things and you seem like, oh, if I put this with this, like you know where that's going to go, and like weird stuff happens. There's a lot of trial and error, a lot of smelling, tasting, keep notes, put post-it notes by stuff. We're going to do a couple rounds. So everyone's going to pick the best things they think they have in their pile. We're going to combine them in a couple of different iterations. We're going to critique those collectively, figure out what's working, what's not working. Then we'll do round 2. Hopefully we fixed it by then. If we haven't, we have enough time where we can do a 3rd round. All right, so you guys are on the refill pile. I want you to pick 3 out of this pile with a favorite also. So you'll have a group of 3, and one of those 3 needs to be like, if I only had one to pick, this is my jam. You guys are in charge of the virgin American oak component of the blend.
This group, we're going to need 2 to 3 barrels picked from y'all to go into the blend. The other groups are doing fewer. So this is an important group. It's going to be kind of the backbone of the blend.
European group, we're going to be working on 2 blends. So I need you to pick 3, your favorite 3 barrels. And out of those 3, one that's specifically like, man, if we were to only use one of these in the blend, this is the one. All right, French folk, your task is out of these to give me 3 favorite ones, and out of that group, one specifically that if only one French can make it in the blend, this is the one you want.
Well, I think now what we've done is established our list, and now we need to work through what everybody likes.
If you smell something you don't like, we'll pass it down the line, and if everyone agrees, we'll just put it right to the back.
Cool, great idea.
Well, we just kind of narrowed it down to 2 each, and we're going to kind of refine from there.
So these are like the ones he liked. We shifted them all down, and then we're going to pick our favorite one out of these, narrow it to 4, and then kind of go from there.
From 10, it is absolutely paralysis by choice.
You really start with the what do I not like and push it away, and then start focusing on what do I like and what do I not like.
All right. So what we have done, we've got the picks from every group as you were directed. One of those blends is going to be a lot more similar to our normal proportions. The other one is going to be equal proportions of every group. That might take us in a wild direction. Maybe we love it. Or maybe we go, wow, that's why they don't use those proportions. So, group 1, tell us what you got.
So we picked a blend or a sample that is more red fruit in the beginning. It's got a little sweetness to it, and then on the palate, that fruit really hits you in the tongue, and then it goes to herbal with a little bit of spice. So that was our first one, and then we have a couple of backups that have a lot more fresh pastry sweet to it.
All right, American oak, virgin American, what do we got?
The 2 samples we picked were, the first one just has this awesome creamy, soft, approachable mouthfeel with some interesting, I think you're saying, that was what you're saying, a nice sweet finish on it. And then the second has got a touch of funk to it, mostly on the nose, but it's got some awesome light stone fruit characters, peach nectarine, maybe more towards even pear, something like that.
European oak, what do you got?
So the 3 that we had, the first one had a little bit of a spiciness on the back end, but we really focused on something that would blend well with really anything that goes with it. So it is kind of more of subtle variations between the 3 that we have. A couple of them, the other 2, they have a little bit more of a pepper on the back end. Yeah, we just kind of went with one that we thought would blend the best for our first pick.
French oak.
So we picked 15979, which was a peach apricot. We thought that it was also going to complement something else, as Jesse was also saying.
Cool, so we'll try those variations. Are we ready to go?
We made up a blend, as Jared said, that's more like a proportion that we actually might have in a blend that's going to be 5 barrels worth. So that's your like highlights. And you only have 20 mils of each of these. And then the other group is going to be all the barrels that you brought forward. So each group contributed 3, and it's going to be equal proportions. You're going to get 2, a min and a max. And yeah, we'll go from there, sip them, get some thoughts, and then we'll come back together and talk about what we think is working and what's not.
Try to come up with what your group thinks the strengths and the weaknesses are of each, so that we can then kind of come up with a group plan on what we're going to do about it, whose group maybe has the best chance of fixing or adding the things that we need, or to removing the things that are too much in there, all that. So yeah, we're gonna get those 2 samples around to you. You got a sample of each for your group. Spend some time smelling, tasting, talking, and well, we'll stop you here in a minute. You guys like the Max a lot. That's great. Since you like Min, what would you have added to it?
I think it needed just a little bit more on the mid palate. Like you got that fruit, but then it was kind of lacking something before it went into the finish.
Okay.
For the Min, it was everything was beautiful up front, but then it kind of lacked a finish. And we wanted something a little more lingering and hearty up at the low end of it.
So some of these cons on the Max for the people who like Min are some things that would have helped the Min. Then we might be getting some hints at where we could go. That's a combination or some sort of version of the 2. Okay.
The 18270 had a lot more of that aromatic, floral sweetness.
Yeah. So you're saying you could potentially remove 18472 and open it
Yeah,
up
and
a
then
little?
maybe just double down on the 270, and,
Okay.
and that might.
So they have an idea of one to take out?
Yeah, they have one to take out.
Okay.
And then do you all have a suggestion for one? Could you reach a consensus on maybe one to remove?
73.
73, okay.
All right. We'll get this mixed up so we can critique it. Version 2. Thoughts on this version?
Cons?
Thoughts on it?
Oh, not a fan.
Not a fan.
I mean, it's okay, but for me, it took away the things I liked about both the Max and the Min fruit. Part of it, it added a little bit more spice to it. To me, it tastes more just like a Froke release than it does something a little bit different.
I mean, we thought it kind of went in it improved it, but it still needed a little more help. I thought the nose was slightly better.
Yeah, it's still kind of must strong on the nose, and that's kind of, at least to me, it's the main thing you get. It's just real forward.
I agree. The nose is opened up.
Yeah.
But then the finish is kind of halfway between powdery and tannic, and kind of just not really sitting anywhere.
I think there was a lot more malt funk in this one, but it did amp up the like stone fruit apricot aspects that we did like about it in the nose.
So this is tough. Is there any consensus for everyone who liked the first version of the Max? Is this an improvement or not?
Max 1 is better than version 2 in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. We have another idea, which is with the smaller number of barrels in the Min, we could make drastic changes just with some small alterations. Let's try it with one of the more crazy French ones, and let's see if we can get some of what you guys were digging here with all of the softness and sweetness and fruit that a lot of people liked over here.
And then we'll mess with the EOs as well and see if that does anything. Because some people were complaining about cheesiness or funk or mustiness or whatnot, so let's see if that's the one.
This is Tommy, our production manager, telling me that the pallet's going on the truck tomorrow, and finish the blend. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Alrighty, French oak, thoughts?
318, hands down.
So we liked the taste of 704. We liked the nose of 318.
Similar to the nose of the more pretty fruit nose, less of the crazy tannic stuff from the Max,
I would agree with that.
but more of the dark fruit and
Absolutely.
the not the grunge, but the dark sugar flavors of the Max. I think that's a nice compromise between pretty much everything we've done that was popular so far.
We were unanimous in 704.
Hands down.
Like what we didn't like about the Min 704 gave back to it. Our first thought was go from Max 1 and move it downward, but then when we tried the 704, we realized that really what we wanted was to go from the Min and move it up. And we think 704 accomplished that perfectly.
So 704 is the Frenched up minimum, and 318 is the European shift. I mean, we say Frenched up, but we really they chose a more intense barrel from the French oak group.
So 704 is the same proportion, just a different barrel pick.
In fact, both of them are the same proportion as minimum. And 318, the change is just that we switched European oak barrel to one that's just a little bit less characteristic of European oak.
To me, that's the best thing that I've had today.
Personally,
Yeah.
I'd still go for the first bin one. That's what I would drink.
I think it hits all of the things that we talked about, from people liking, not liking, and things like that. That would be my vote.
I say let's go person by person here. Seriously, because now that we've done our team thing, let's go person by person. So you say 318.
Man.
Men.
704.
704.
I'll go with men.
318.
318.
Still men.
318.
704.
I'm men.
704.
So let me ask you this: if the Texas Whiskey Trail released the Min blend, would this be an expression that Balcones would be proud to release?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My biggest goal is I think we accomplished, which is sharing a lot of, all this whiskey that's at your house and it's in these bottles. Like, there's a lot that goes into getting that done. There's unnecessary, sometimes, distance between, kind of hard lines between producing and consuming. I think that's part of what the Trail Association and just the general climate, I think, around whiskey, beer, food, everything is heading that direction anyway. It's fun to watch you guys get to know each other event after event after event, and we're getting to know people event after event, and it's a legitimate community that everybody's got a part to play in that. And so, hope this was a lot of fun for you guys. I'm happy with the whiskey, so I can't wait to get this bottle.